got something.
Oh. What do you think it is?
I don't know.
What have our adventurers discovered? Could these be the most underrated Discraft discs? Only time will tell. Stay tuned to find out more.
Great little intro there, Pat. Really nice way to segue into our conversation.
Yeah, if only like every day you could go out in the woods with your fancy plastic detector and find a haul like that. But I'm sure some of you guys out there have had some awesome finds, so I want you to do me a favor, comment down below about what scores you have had out on the course, maybe some stuff you found with nobody's name on it that was just the most amazing plastic you've ever thrown, or somewhere weird where you found something. But without further delay, I want to tell you guys why we're here. We actually started a poll on the Discraft All Day page the other day, asking your thoughts on what the most underrated Discraft discs are. And you know what? You have spoken. We have those results here for you. So without further delay, I'm going to hand it over to Wes Shinovar, team captain of the Discraft Underground team, and he's going to talk to us about number 5, which is the Wasp.
Number 5 is the Wasp, according to our poll for most underrated discs. And kind of our criteria, just to set this up a little bit, were just the discs that are not signature molds, maybe discs that aren't super popular. You got your Zone, your Buzz, obviously, that are really well known, but some stuff that's kind of middle of the road or lesser known. And so at number 5, we have the Wasp. And the Wasp is a mid-range. This is going to be your step up from the Buzz. And when we take a look at the Wasp here, you can see it's a pretty flat top. This one has just a little slight dome to it. And where this differs from the Buzz is that it has a little bit bigger bead on it. And that little bit bigger bead makes it a little bit deeper and a little more stable. The flight numbers on the Wasp, we have... Oh, man, where'd I put them?
Oh, I can save you here with that one. So for the Wasp,
perfect.
We have the flight numbers of 5, 3, 0, and 2, which you can see displayed on the top left corner of your screen there as well. And we're going to keep track of the little list there as we go along.
I feel those numbers are pretty accurate. 5 speed, you can tell it's a little bit slower disc. It is a mid-range, so it's meant to be a little bit slower. 3 glide, and as these things kind of beat in, I'd say they even get up to probably closer to a 4 glide. With the mid-flight coming in at 0, pretty flat mid-flight for these. Not something, maybe that your mid-arm speeds can high or flip and get to hold a flat line, your bigger arms for sure, but pretty stable mid-flight. And then we see a 2 at the end, which means they're going to have a slow fade. So I actually bag one of these. I bag one that is a little bit more used, and I throw that for if there's any type of headwind where I would otherwise throw a Buzz. They're also really great for forehands for me that I want to finish left a little bit, so I can throw these flat on a forehand or with a little Anheuser even, and they still have great glide and will finish out to the left. So number 5, most underrated disc in the Discraft lineup, the Wasp.
All right, so now we are going to continue. I actually have 2 Wasps. I want to show off my cool discs too.
Yeah, you throw Wasps.
I do. I bag the Wasps. I actually like the ESP Swirl ones. I wasn't a huge fan of the Z, but I mean this ESP plastic is so great. Just love it.
The swirly ones are nice too.
I love my Wasps. We are going to move to number 4. This is a disc that I have never really thrown, and that would be the Stalker.
The Stalker coming in at 7, 5, -1, and 2. Here I have a nice orange Team Stamp Stalker, and this is something that I have also not thrown a lot myself, so definitely no aficionado on the Stalker. But taking a look at these, we can see a little flatter top, slower speed at a 7, definitely in the fairway category. -1 on their mid-flight, and what I see a lot with people that do throw these is that they love to throw them on little hyzers to flat, and being a slower disc, a little bit duller rim than maybe your Undertaker, these are going to have a slower fade and a straighter flight. You see the -1 for the mid-flight, so they're going to, on a flat release, it might have a little bit of a pull to the right, but again, a slower fade is going to keep you straighter and a little bit more in the fairway. So not something that I throw myself, but definitely very comfortable in the hand, good speed disc, and I would kind of categorize these right in the middle between the Mantis and the Undertaker. The Mantis is turning over a little bit, Undertaker's fading out a little bit too much for you. Give a Stalker a try.
So I'm just curious, so if you don't throw a Stalker, I don't throw a Stalker, what are you throwing in that slot, so to speak?
Yeah, I throw a ESP Undertaker for my straight fairway. Mm-hmm. I like the ESP for the Undertakers. It's just a little bit less stable than my Z1s. The one that I have has a nice little dome to it as well, which I feel like gives it kind of a mid-stable, mid-flight. So for that straight fairway, I'm probably throwing an Undertaker. I'm also more of a power thrower, so I'm not afraid to grab my Wasp or my Buzz OS and really rip on those to get max distance, as opposed to maybe powering down on a fairway a little bit.
Okay. I throw Undertakers as well. That's what I put in my slot, because I think it's important to touch on this, because these discs are underrated because there's other stuff that's being used in that place. You know, it's not like every pro from Discraft's out there with no fairway drivers. So, you know, that's why we see these discs be a little bit underrated, because you do see stuff like the Undertaker taking that slot. So that was that one. We're going to move to number 3, which again is another disc that I don't throw because I throw Undertakers. And that is going to be the Mantis. And that comes in at 8, 4, -2, and 2.
The Mantis is something that has come in and out of my bag, and it really depends on what my Undertaker is doing. Again, kind of my understable ESP Undertaker sort of fills the slot where I would otherwise maybe throw a Mantis. I also bag a Heat myself for the understable fairway side. But we're talking about the Mantis. We'll take a look at the Mantis. You can see these have a little dome to them and are an 8 speed right in that fairway range. The -2 on the mid-flight, I feel like you definitely see on these. You can really give these things a hyzer flip to flat, and they'll be very straight or even with a little bit of a right finish. Again, we see them a little bit lower on the fade with a 2 fade, similar to the Stalker, I believe was right about there as well. So these are not going to fade out hard, and I feel like that's really the big difference between the Mantis and maybe a Heat and an Undertaker, is that these are just going to be a little bit straighter. And in terms of people that have lower arm speed, the Mantis is actually a really great kind of beginner or mid-level driver even. This was one of the first discs that I threw, over 350 feet when I was working a lot more on my mechanics, a lot more on my form, and needed something that wasn't high speed, that was going to have a lot of good glide and a straight finish for that extra distance. So I definitely think the Mantis is a pretty underrated disc. I definitely think it's a unique disc to Discraft in terms of its flight. Can't really say that I've seen anything else out there that flies like a Mantis. So I can definitely see why that is number 3 on our list.
Okay. I don't bag a Mantis because pretty much the only fairways I throw are Heats and Undertakers. So
yeah.
We're gonna go to number 2, which is weird because this is a disc that I don't bag, and it's a disc that you don't bag, but it is a disc that I've thrown. So it's a disc that you don't even have one of, surprisingly. So I'm going to get to talk to you guys about this one and hopefully do my best here, and hopefully not make all of the Meteor fans out there upset, because I feel like this disc is like what partially tears the disc golf community between the Meteor and the Comet. I see like probably more on Discraft all day on that topic than anything. When you talk about understable mid ranges, people asking for suggestions, you get half of the community saying, "Hey, you need to throw the Comet." You get the other half saying, "Hey, guess what? It's time to throw a Meteor." So I wanted to show you guys this. It is a understable mid range. The flight on it, I got to come back to this other page here. 5.5, -3, 1. So it has quite a bit of glide. And this one was actually given to me by Lenny Young, and he said, "Hey, you need to put this in your bag in place of your Buzz because it's slightly beefy and you're just going to be able to get a beautiful flight. It's like a buzz with more glide, I guess is exactly how he said. He said, do you love the buzz? Would you like the buzz with more glide? Throw this. And I threw it, and I threw it, and I like it. And I wish that my release was clean enough that where I could have a consistent flight with it. Unfortunately, it's just not. So I prefer to throw the buzz, because if I do goof up a little bit, the results are nowhere near as awful for me. It's kind of my thought on it. But have you ever actually thrown a Meteor, Wes, at all?
Yeah. I've definitely tested out Meteors, and again, still being an amateur player, my release might not be 100% consistent, and again, being more of a power thrower, I don't bag a lot of stuff that has these negative turn numbers. I really like to release my stuff flat, has been the most consistent for me. So releasing a Meteor without hyzer is probably not a great idea for mid to upper arm speeds. But I've definitely tested Meteors a couple of times because so many people love them that I think there's always a chance that I could learn to love it. Or maybe as my game evolves, I might be able to find a spot for it in the bag. But again, for me being more of a power thrower, I'd rather throw, my Challenger OS or my Challenger SS or something like that I can really power throw, see a lot of glide, and kind of see that understable mid-flight with. So that's usually what I would go with in the place of a Meteor. But I think the Meteor is a fantastic disc, and obviously at number 2 on our poll is a favorite of a lot of people.
Yes, it definitely is. And we're getting ready to hit number 1. But before we get to number 1, we want to ask you guys to do us a favor. If you're enjoying the videos that we're putting out, take a second out of your time, hit that subscribe button up top for us. That just kind of gives us the motivation to keep pushing and pushing and pushing through the editing process and some of this stuff that Wes and I, neither one of us are experts at. We've just heard what a lot of people want to see, and we want to try to give you guys the best content. So with that in mind, comment down below what changes you'd like to see, or if you guys have any ideas for what videos you'd like. So number 1, are you shocked about this one at all?
I'm not. I'm not
either, because I bag one. I bag two actually.
I think this is one of Discraft's most unique molds. Again, this is another one that I really don't see anything that flies exactly like this from any other brand that I've seen people throw. And so, no, this one was not a huge surprise that this one made it to number 1.
So, with that being said, bring on the heat. At flight numbers of 9.6, -3.1. We're going to let Wes start talking about the joys of it. I'm going to actually show mine real quick because he's going to talk and I'm going to forget to do it. I wanted to show you guys the ESP Swirl ones. They are awesome. Ooh. I know that an awesome run came out, and these things are nice. I actually going to leave it as a backup because I've had a first run heat now in my bag since I've started throwing Discraft. I don't know what I would do. I would trade everything in my bag. Or you can have my whole bag, including the bag, to not lose this disc. I think somewhere on here, it's like I think I've got like a $40 reward on it, like written in the pile of ink throughout of it. Yeah, so that's my baby. I also have another one. This one's just rollers, all that it's for. But on to you, Wes. Tell them why I love the heat so much and why I'm so excited about this.
Oh man, I'll tell you why everybody loves the heat. Again, I think this is a mold that is super unique to Discraft. We saw it debut at the Ace Race a couple years ago now. And the heat is a beautiful understable fairway driver. You see they have really good dome to them, which gives them fantastic glide for hyzer flips, for high ante shots that you need to glide and ride out. Where I throw these is for my understable fairway driver, and these things are super versatile depending on what angle you put them on. So if you put these things on a hyzer, they will stand up to flat. They might pull a little bit to the right, but they'll finish pretty straight with a little bit of fade. If you throw these things flat, they will ride over to the right for mid to upper arm speeds. And one of the great things I really think about the heat is that this is at a 9 speed is really a full speed driver for slower to mid arm speeds. This was the first disc when I was very new to disc golf that I was able to throw from 300 to 350 feet. These things just have tremendous glide and are just a perfect balance of glide, understability, finish. The Heat is just a beautiful mix of all of the things that you would want from an understable fairway.
Okay, I like where you went with that. I want to throw out one more bonus disc here, and you and I think, both bagged this disc, and I almost call it the Heat's big brother. And that's the Crank SS. You still have
Oh,
one.
yeah. Yes.
It didn't get on our list because it was still actually quite a bit down there. But I want to tell you, if you enjoy the Heat and maybe you're looking for something with a little bit more of a flight out of it, try out the Crank SS. It's going to be a slightly higher speed, still understable, doesn't require a lot of power to get it to flip up to flat and get a nice long carry with a lot of glide. Whenever I went through a shoulder injury, it was nice to still be able to throw 360 feet with only throwing at like 55% of what my normal power was. So it was a fantastic disc.
Yeah, and for anybody that thinks the crank, or if their crank is just a little bit too stable, the Z Crank SSs are beautiful, especially in open field or with tailwind situations. If the crank is just a smidge too much for you, or you want something that is, really reliably understable in its mid-flight, the Crank SS is probably what you're looking for. And I've been pushing the Crank SS because I threw it a ton this year, and it really helped gain me some distance because it doesn't quite have the early fade that the Crank does. You'll see a bigger flex through the mid-flight, but it still has good fade. And so for me, the Crank SS really added a good 20 or 30 feet to my drives just by throwing the Crank SS instead of my Crank. And they're just, especially if you find one with a good little dome, like most of them have, they're awesome. I love them. And they're the best disc, in my opinion, for backhand rollers as well.
That is your bonus disc. I just want you guys to know that.
Yeah.
Bonus disc for you there. Other than that, that's our top 5 that you guys voted for on Discraft All Day. If you are not part of the Discraft All Day group, I encourage you guys to make sure you head over there and join that, because that is where a lot of the Discraft talk goes on and where we try to strive to get some of our content from. So thank you everybody in that Facebook group for putting out stuff and helping us along the way. Again, subscribe up top, comment down below. Team Stamp Wes Crank SS's coming out one of these days, signature series.
Yeah.
Get your hands on them in the future, hopefully.
Yeah, maybe one day.
All right, guys. Peace out.